Hi everyone, I am Dr. Shano. Today we will be looking on the topic basic terms for understanding the nervous system. And I think it is really helpful to familiarize yourself with some basic terms and concepts. These foundational ideas will make it easier to understand the complexities of how the nervous system works. The first word you should know is neuron. What are neurons? See, neurons are the building blocks of the nervous system. Why are they the building blocks of nervous system? Because these neurons are specialized cells. Why is it specialized? They are specialized cells that transmit electrical and chemical signals throughout the body. Now let's see the parts of the neuron and its function. Okay, and in this image, can you see these branch-like structures? These branch-like structures are called dendrites. What these dendrites do? They receive the signal from the other neuron and then it passes to the cell body. So this is the cell body. Can you see this? So what does cell body have? Cell body have nucleus, and what it do? It maintains the health of the neuron and it controls the entire neuron. And from the cell body, the signals are transferred to where? To the axon. So what is the axon? You can see a long single fiber that sends signals away from the cell body to the other neurons or target cells or the glands, whatever, and that is axon. So this long fiber that transfers signal to the other cells and organs are the axons. And in the axon, you can see this blue color thing, light blue. Okay, these are myelin sheath. What is the function of the myelin sheath? Myelin sheath increases the speed of the signal. Like you can imagine, like in your house, this electricity wires are insulated, right? Similarly, this axon, you can imagine like inside is the axon and insulation kind of, that is this myelin sheath. The myelin sheath increases the speed of the signal. Okay, and myelin sheaths are produced from where? These myelin sheaths are produced from the Schwann cells. Now let us see what are these synapse. Okay, so before that, can you see these two images here, two neurons? Okay, so as I explained, these are the dendrites. From there the signals are reached to cell body, from there to the long single fiber axon, and the signals have reached the terminal axon, and the signals are passed to the dendrites of the next neuron, right? And here this black color box I have drawn now, this I have magnified as this picture, that is the end of the neuron and the dendrites of the other neuron. And in this you can see there is a small gap between the two neurons. This is where the communication occurs. These are the synapses. When electrical signals, see these neurotransmitters or the electrical signals reaches where? Reaches the end of the neuron. Chemicals called end of the neuron. Chemicals called neurotransmitters are released into this gap, and then communication occurs, sending the messages to the next neuron. Now let us see what are these neurotransmitters. Okay, so these are chemicals that carry signals across the synapse from one neuron to another. There are different kinds of neurotransmitters with different functions. For example, dopamine is involved in the reward, motivation, and movement, whereas serotonin regulates the mood, sleep, and appetite, and acetylcholine helps with the muscle contraction and memory. Now let's see about the dopamine. Now let's see about dopamine. Okay, see, this dopamine plays a crucial role in reward, motivation, and movement through distinct pathways in the brain. Why I mentioned distinct pathway? Because dopamine released from this area, this is the nucleus accumbens of the brain, which is located at the base of the forebrain. Dopamine released from this area is responsible for the reward and motivation. That is why dopamine, that is why dopamine is feel good neurotransmitters. I am sure you all have felt very happy when someone praises you, or when someone says you look so handsome or you look so beautiful. You feel so happy. Have you ever thought why you feel happy? Because of dopamine release. So have you ever thought from where this dopamine is released? This dopamine is released from this nucleus accumbens, which is a part of the brain's reward pathway located at the base of the forebrain. Here I also would love to mention that Our brain learns to link certain actions with good feelings, which make us want to do those actions again and again. That is why we should always appreciate our children, colleagues, or friends, because when we appreciate them, like when they achieve something, when we appreciate them, their brain or the nucleus accumbens releases dopamine, so which makes them to do that thing again and again. Okay, that's why we always have to encourage people. So when we encourage people, dopamine is released and making them feel good. And when good things, brain need it again and again and encouraging them to do those actions again. At the same time, we also know many people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol, right? These substances, what they do, they hijack this reward system by causing large amount of dopamine release, making them crave more of those substances. That when the person takes this drugs kind of things, lot of dopamine is released. So brain feels something good. So what they want, he wanted again and again, dopamine is wanted. So what happened? It craves for that substances. That is how addiction occurs. So we learned about the dopamine released from the nucleus accumbens, which is crucial for the reward and motivation. Now let us explore the dopamine is related to the movement. Okay, so see dopamine uh, essential for controlling voluntary movement also. And this dopamine is released from where? In the midbrain, part of the basal ganglia, there is some called substantia nigra. This blue thing, this is the substantia nigra. The substantia nigra produces dopamine, which is responsible for the movement. Uh, what kind of movements facilitate more smooth and controlled movements by regulating the motor pathways. And I am sure you all have heard of Parkinson's disease. And most of the guys know Parkinson's disease is due to the lack of dopamine. So my question is, where is this dopamine released from? I said no. This dopamine is released from the substantia nigra. So when there is a lack of dopamine from this substantia nigra, it can lead to symptoms like tremors, stiffness, and difficulty initiating the movements. These are the characteristic symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Let's see again. So, in Parkinson's disease, loss of dopamine producing neurons in the substantia nigra causes symptoms like tremors, stiffness, and difficulty initiating movement. So, in this slide, I have just differentiated what we have learned. Okay, just revise it. So, nucleus accumbens, where is it located? It is located in the basal forebrain. What it do? In dopamine released from the nucleus accumbens involved in motivation, pleasure, and reinforcement learning. What it is associated with the feelings of pleasure and reward. Related disorders, if there is a lack of dopamine from the nucleus accumbens, it can lead to reward processing. And like if over dopamine is producing drug addiction and all, this is responsible. And where is substantia nigra located? Substantia nigra is located in the midbrain. It's a part of basal ganglia. Why? What is it do? Substantia nigra is crucial for movement and control and essential for initiating and regulating movements. And loss of dopamine or lack of dopamine released from the substantia nigra leads to Parkinson's disease. So the nervous system is divided into two: central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. This central nervous system is the control center. And here in this kind of rose color, I have mentioned central nervous system consists of brain and spinal cord. Look at this image. The rose color now, brain and spinal cord. These are in the central nervous system, whereas rest all of the nerves are peripheral nervous system. Now let us see peripheral nervous system. So all the nerves outside the brain and spinal cord are peripheral nervous system, which I already said. What it do? This peripheral nervous system sends information to and from the central nervous system. This peripheral nervous system is further divided into somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. What this somatic nervous system is? Somatic nervous system which control our voluntary action. Suppose like if I am moving my hand, okay, this is because of the somatic nervous system. I'm voluntarily moving it. So this is because of somatic nervous system. Whereas autonomic nervous system are involuntary movements like my heart is beating or digestion. These all are because of autonomic nervous system. And this autonomic nervous system is further divided into parasympathetic division, that is rest and digest, sympathetic division, fight and flight, and the enteric nervous system, myendric and submucosal plexus. Just for basic understanding, now you just have to understand the basic things. Into detail, we will go into the real chapter of the nervous system. Now let us see what are action potential. Action potential is a neural impulse. It is a brief electric charge that travels down an axon. You understood what I mean? Means these action potentials are electrical signals that travels down the axon of a neuron. When the neuron get excited, suppose when the neuron get excited by a stimulus, what happens? It creates an action potential. This action potential carries the signal to the next neuron or the target cell. For a better understanding, I can say you like, for example, you imagine like you are lighting a bulb by switching it on. So when you switch on the bulb, what happens? The electric signals travels through the wire, reaches the holder of the bulb and cause the bulb to glow. Similarly, in a neuron, when it gets excited by a stimulus, an electrical signal is generated. This electrical signal is what we call action potential. And what it do? This action potential travels down the axon of the neuron and passes the signal to the next neuron. Now, let us see the reflex arc. And it's so easy to learn because reflex arc is the pathway that controls the reflex actions. Like suppose you put your hand accidentally on the fire, suddenly you withdraw it, right? This is the reflex arc. And in this, what is the specialty is like there is no enough time to consciously do all that things. It all have to happen as sudden. Like suppose you put the hand on the fire, then you have to think, oh, I put my hand on fire. Now it may be burning. Oh, I have to remove. Like you don't have the time to think all this. So it have to happen without the need of consciousness. So what happens in reflex arc? It is a pathway that controls the reflex actions by pulling your hand away from the hot stove. It involves sensory neuron, which detects the stimulus, and the motor neuron, which brings about the response without the need of conscious thought. In this image, you can see first see stimulus. Okay. And the second step is like activation of the sensory neuron. And the third step is information is processing in the CNS and activation of the motor neuron and response by the effector cells. This is the reflex arc. So now let's go to the myelin sheath, which we already learned in the beginning. What are myelin sheath? Do you remember? Uh, the long fibers of the neuron. Long fibers of neuron are what? These axons. These are covered with a fatty sheath called myelin sheath. And that time I said what it do. This myelin sheath helps to speed up the transmission of the nerve impulse, allowing the signals to move so faster. If you want to imagine, you can think like the insulations in the electric wires. The wires are insulated, no? Similarly, these axons are insulated by the myelin sheath. So coming to the conclusion, so what all we have studied? We have studied what are neurons, then we studied that synapse. Synapse is the gap, okay, where the communication occurs. Then we talked about the neurotransmitter, the chemicals or the chemical messengers. Then a central nervous system, which include brain and spinal cord, peripheral nervous system, uh, the somatic and autonomic nervous system, which is divided into sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic and enteric nervous system. And we talked about the action potential. With the action potential is an electrical kind of charge which helps the signals to transmit to the next neuron. Then we talked about the reflex arc, like when you put the hand in flame or something, suddenly we remove it back and why and all. We have learned, and myelin sheath of course all of us know, it is the insulation of the axon. So these are the very basic terms you must know before you go into the nervous system, because it will really help to understand it more easier. And thank you so much. and see you in the next lecture. And if you like this lecture, please comment, like and subscribe, and thank you.